A very good day to you, dear Principal, professors and staff members. Welcome to this session where we will examine how capable we are to be teachers of the 21st century. You will agree with me that for any job today, there is a great need for skills, abilities, aptitudes, and even one's attitude makes a difference. I remember when I was a youngster, a neighbor applied for a secretary's post, and she was told she had to do a course in typing and stenography. Today, the same neighbor's daughter has applied for an IT post, and the requirement for her is computer skills. Yes, friends, when it comes to teaching, I've often heard this kind of sarcastic remark. Those who cannot get any job anywhere else come to teaching. Is it true? Is it false? Well, there's no smoke without fire, and possibly this could be true of some teachers. Yes, today's teacher has to be talented, adaptable, versatile, and well-equipped in many overt and covert skills. And the teacher cannot just be a jack of all trades, but must definitely be a master in many. If I look back at the teachers during my school years, they had a rather structured existence. At home, they prepared, they came to class and taught, they gave us some tests or homeworks and classworks, and they were busy with corrections. And this routine of prepare, teach, correct went on day in and day out. But they never got tired. To them, teaching was a vocation. In fact, their students were more placid and docile. They were more controllable. But what about today's teachers? They feel out of their depth. They find little joy and satisfaction, whereas the teachers of the past experienced this joy and satisfaction. Today's teacher often complains of loads of work, and it becomes a drudgery for them. And so many of them feel ill-equipped to cope. If you're asking me for solutions, sorry, I don't have ready-made solutions. You yourselves, who have been working for quite a number of years, will have found solutions yourselves. But let's see what we can discuss in this session. Let us take the analogy of a bicycle tire. You have the hub at the center from which spokes emanate in all directions, and these spokes are attached to a rim at the top. The hub is the main part attached to the cycle wheels. Similarly, the teacher can be considered the hub, controlling different spokes all at once. What are these spokes? Let us see some. The first spoke I can think of is one's qualifications and one's training. To teach at the primary and middle school, you need the D.Ed. To teach at the higher school or high school and higher secondary, you need the B.Ed. Plus, of course, the BA or MA. At the college level, you need to have a doctorate together with what is called the NET and SET. What about workshops, seminars, orientation and refresher courses? These are also requirements for many at the college levels. But is all this enough? Let me give you a couple of examples. When I was doing my B.Ed, my English teacher, a good soul, could not deliver, and most of us would look at him and suppress our laughter because we couldn't follow what he was saying. I had a similar experience when I was doing my M.Ed. A brilliant professor, but he could not deliver the goods. Yes, friends, my next spoke in this cycle tire is confidence and competence. Unlike in the past, today's teacher does not easily command attention, whereas in the past, the moment we saw our teacher, we all stood still, wished the teacher, and obeyed the teacher instantly. Today, research studies have shown that students have a shorter attention span, but they have boundless energies, and so they tend to be distracted, troublesome, and even hyperactive. No doubt, they're also presumably better informed and knowledgeable. Why? Because of greater exposure to the media and the use of technology. Where does it leave the teacher or the professor? These need to be one step ahead and capture and hold their students' attention. How can they do this? In a very elementary way, they need to project themselves as confident and competent. They need to have good communication skills. They need to employ improved and creative teaching methods together with the use of technology. Now, how will the teacher develop all these? Obviously, they need to attend personality development courses or courses in public speaking. They need to be thoroughly computer literate or savvy, as it said. They need to familiarize themselves with the various devices that students use in daily life. I'm talking primarily of their cell phones and the internet, the laptop, and what have you. So teachers need to find ways and means to channelize or focus the students' energies in relevant curricular and co-curricular activities. I am told that when it comes to youth festivals and melas and intercollegiate competitions, even the most lethargic or lazy student comes alive, because for them, this is what they want. Some time back, I gave a session on how to attend and conduct yourself at an interview. And I got feedback that those students who were about to leave college were very happy with the inputs they got. That is what we as teachers need to prepare them for. Today, one talks of 3 quotients: IQ, EQ, and SQ. I got this from a book by Dr. Elaine Ann Charles. It is said that most of us do not use our intelligence to the fullest capacity, whereas that is something we need to do. Yes, indeed, today's teacher should be intelligent, knowledgeable about subject matter, and even beyond subject matter. He needs to be creative and innovative. Today's teacher can no longer be a mere imparter of knowledge or a person who gives notes. Certainly no spoon feeding. We all have heard of this statement. Give a man a fish and you will satisfy his hunger for today. But teach him to fish and you will not have to feed him again because he will feed himself. Applying this to teachers, teachers are now required to be facilitators or catalysts of learning. Therefore, they need to teach students how to access and retrieve information from websites, resource books, e-learning, and what have you. But importantly, without shirking one's responsibility. I know of my own daughter's lecturer who would give them these websites and things, and the students were left high and dry because they did not know how to proceed from there. Whereas this teacher just took it for granted that they would manage. No, the teacher's responsibility is also to follow up. A successful teacher is one who knows how to handle his students intelligently. The idea floating around is that the teacher's role and importance is greatly reduced today. This may be true, but the human element, the human touch and contact between the teacher and the student can never be brought down to an outright zero. Let's look at EQ, the emotional quotient. It refers to the teacher's ability to deal with emotions and feelings in their students and in themselves. Today's students are filled with emotional and psychological insecurities brought on by parental and peer pressure or even negative family environments. What does an EQ do? A high EQ will help teachers to handle their students with care and compassion and discern their emotional needs. It's common knowledge today that many students resort to suicides. Why? Because they cannot handle the home situation or the teasing and ragging in class and their own emotional fears and insecurities. They need humane teachers, teachers with high IQ, EQ. Therefore, teachers should develop skills and abilities to become, in the real sense, what was told to us when I was doing my B.Ed, a friend, a philosopher, and a guide. And now, a barefoot counselor. Students need us. EQ tells us that teachers influence their students by the kind of persons they are. And they touch the lives of their students in ways that are not immediately seen. Yes, I know my own teachers touched my lives in beautiful ways, and I am eternally grateful to them because I am today what I am thanks to the example they set. Let's now look at SQ, spiritual quotient. What is it? SQ is concerned with the spiritual element, that which permeates the entire being of the teacher and helps them to progress from thinking of teaching as a job or a profession to thinking of teaching as a call, a vocation. SQ sustains them when they feel like giving up, which is so very common nowadays. Another spoke is the personal needs, both physical and psychological, of the teacher. Among other things, their own self-image and self-esteem. Yes, there are some teachers who have a poor self-image and their self-esteem is at a low level. They need help themselves. And one way is when they read books on self-esteem. While the teacher helps students with needs emanating from their families, let's not forget that the teacher himself or herself also faces family needs. For example, the teacher herself or himself may have come from a broken home, may have a family that is constantly at war because of the joint family system, or because of the in-laws and outlaws fighting each other. I guess you understand what I mean by outlaws. Then there are some teachers who are single wage earners. All these become a burden to the teachers. Let's look at another spoke, and a very important spoke, namely interpersonal relationships between staff members and also with management. Some of these involve ego clashes, backbiting, slander and gossip, envy and jealousy, resentment, unforgiveness. All of this vitiates the atmosphere and spills over into the classroom. My dear teachers, be aware, think rationally, and maintain your dignity in the face of all this. There are some headmasters who harass teachers. I know of at least one who doesn't do his job properly, and when it comes to exam time, he tells the students what questions he is going to ask, and the notes that he has already given them will help them. So they obviously do very well. And then a parallel teacher teaching the same subject who has been conscientious. The students obviously will not all get good marks. And this principal pulls them up and says, "Look at my students, how well they are doing. What about yours?" And he harasses these teachers. One of them even left the college prematurely. How sad it is that such principals, instead of being a beacon or an example, are really persons who should not be in that position. Let's not forget, good teachers are like are like fruit-bearing trees at which stones are thrown. Collect those stones and build yourselves a nice barricade. Socrates is attributed with having brought up the triple filter. Whenever someone came to him with some juicy piece of gossip, he asked, first, is it true? Second, is it good? Third, is it useful to me? And if any one of these was answered in the negative, he said, then why have you come to me with these silly pieces of gossip? We need to be like that. We need to discern and not allow gossip to become part of our staff rooms. Another spoke deals with the syllabus and completing one's portion. It is a frequent complaint among teachers. Perhaps, I'm saying perhaps, this goes or is responsible, it happens rather, because of poor planning and organization. You plan properly, you organize your syllabus properly, and I think your time will also help, because you will use your time and use your priorities right. This is something very, very important. So then you don't have any reason to complain that portions are vast and that you don't have any time. It is said that the teacher is the only book that the students read daily. Let us take each alphabet of B-O-O-K. The B is the teacher's behavior in speech and dress. Students observe and imitate. The first O in book is how obliging is the teacher. Is he or she kind, understanding, impartial, and approachable? Then the second O stands for orderly and organized. Students imitate their teachers, as I said, and if you are orderly and organized, they will also be. And the K stands for keen, how enthusiastic and motivated you are. So teachers, don't forget, you are the only book that your students read on a daily basis. An equally important spoke deals with one's philosophy of life, which is the guiding principle of your life, based on wisdom. Very simply, questions the teacher could ask pertaining to his or her philosophy of life are some things like this. What kind of teacher do I want to be? How do I want to be remembered? If I look at my own life as a teacher for over 30 years, I am happy with the idea that my students will remember me as a warm, approachable, dedicated person who tried his best to do his job given certain constraints at my home. Today's teacher must not forget that he is a lamp, an oil lamp. So you need to trim the wick, put in oil from time to time. The teacher is also a torch, an electrical torch, which either has batteries which need to be replaced or it has to be recharged. The teacher is also a sculptor. You have the student as a marble block. You chip away and bring out a perfect model of a student. The teacher is also a leader, leading students to higher values. There is this anecdote of 3 workers who were building a temple or a cathedral. And the bishop went to these workers. He met the first one and he said, "What are you doing?" Of course, he did not go as a bishop. He went incognito. So the workers did not know it was the bishop. The first one said, "Are you blind? Can't you see what I am doing?" And the bishop went to the next worker. This worker said, "Well, I'm just chipping stones." And the third one said, "I'm building a cathedral or a temple." Now, which of these had a clear picture of what he was doing? Obviously, the third. Teachers, are you aware of what you are doing? Are you aware of the great influence you have in the life of your students? It is said, a teacher affects eternity and can never tell where his influence ends. This is a quote from H.B. Adams. Well, let us build students and not wait to repair them when things go wrong. So therefore, prepare and prevent rather than repair and repent. Teachers don't aim for cheap popularity. Remember, you can't please everyone. We know of the 7 wonders of the world. Have they stood the test of time? Yes. You and I, as teachers, are building something even greater with far-reaching consequences. What are we building? We are building our students. We are co-workers with God, the divine potter, in shaping and forming the young, growing minds entrusted to our care. We'll take a break now, and I'm ready for your questions as soon as you come back after this refreshment.
Okay, I have with me Professor Nicholas D'Souza. Nicholas D'Souza happens to be a well-known name and eminent personality in Goa. He is a retired professor and he's conducted workshops for numerous teachers and in various colleges all around Goa. So, without wasting any further time, let me introduce to you Mr. Nicholas D'Souza. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, can you tell us a little more about what your topic was all about today?
In brief, it was how we as teachers can be well equipped to deal with the challenges of the 21st century. Because as more and more young teachers come up, the idea of teaching as a vocation gets sidelined, and they normally think in terms of teaching as a profession. But teaching by its very nature goes beyond the 9 to 5 kind of timing. So you need to have that openness to reaching out to your students and doing more than what your time requirements are.
Okay. Mr. D'Souza, you have been a teacher yourself for so many years. According to you, how well equipped do you feel is the teacher of today's generation as opposed to when you were during your active years?
I feel the teachers of today, as I said, the younger generation, they are not well equipped.
Okay.
More because the quality that we have, which I have observed, is rather low.
Okay.
And if your quality as a teacher is low, what can you impart to your students?
Okay.
So my feeling is that first and foremost, their IQ levels may not be up to much.
Okay.
Then in terms of their emotional and spiritual quotients, again, they may not even have heard of it. Yeah. So perhaps they need a lot of motivation to become better and more, effective teachers.
Mr. D'Souza, in a nutshell, can you give us some points as to how we could improve the standard of teaching, in particular at the college level? As you have covered during your seminar, you've given the teachers some ideas as to how to interact with the students, how to empathize with their needs and get into the skin of their characters. So how, according to you, can you tell us in brief which are the important points that teachers of today's generation should follow, they have to follow?
Just offhand, I would say, firstly, they should have their priorities right. Okay? So, it means a lot of sacrifice. Giving up on their entertainments, giving up on the use of their mobiles or laptops for non-educational purposes. Okay? And also doing a lot of reading relevant to their subject. Because I feel many of them are so structured by just the textbook
Okay.
that they don't know anything beyond. So very, very important that they go deep into the subject, read about it. If necessary, use the laptops and internet, whatever, because only then are they better equipped to give what they have. Because students today, as I said, are having access to laptops and computers and internet. So they may be already with knowledge. And if we as teachers are not at least equal with them,
Okay.
then we are a failure.
Okay. Another question that I would like to ask you, Mr. D'Souza, do you think that teachers themselves would do well to turn back the clock and go down to the times when, down memory lane, and think of the time when they were students themselves as to what are the difficulties some of them had faced? I'm sure some of them have come up after facing so many difficulties. So what do you think? Do you think this would help teachers?
Yes. In fact, one of the exercises that I normally do when having teacher effectiveness seminars, I make them go down memory lane, as you said, and recall their favorite teachers and their not so favorite teachers, and put down in writing why they liked X teacher and why they disliked X teacher. And then I ask them, which category do you belong to?
Okay, so
Yeah, if you belong to the favorite teacher, congratulations. But if you belong to the disliked teacher, what are you going to do about it?
true.
So I make them think and put down in writing what concrete steps they will take to
Okay.
improve themselves.
Okay, that's right. So, Mr. D'Souza, according to you, technology also plays an important role. As you said, if WhatsApp and social media in general can be used productively or for the benefit or the betterment of students' education, then do you think the teacher of today has more means of communication on hand as opposed to yesteryears?
Yes, indeed. And the teacher now should direct the student
Okay.
to websites, to those sites actually, where they can improve their knowledge. Because quite often students ignorantly or innocently tap a button
Okay.
and they get into pornographic websites.
Yes.
So, and if they get hooked, they can get hooked for life.
Yes.
So teachers have to warn them, these are things that you should not indulge in. And show them good websites.
Okay. Mr. D'Souza, I did find that some of the teachers, they tend to ask negative questions sometimes, in the sense that one of them very prominently asked you that the student has no focus. Now, when you say no focus, when I can personally go down memory lane and think that when I was in college, I too didn't have much focus as to what I wanted to pursue. But over a period of time, you realize what you want to do. So don't you think the teacher should be a little more positive today as to when a person doesn't have any focus in life, tell them, you don't worry, we shall look into it when it's the appropriate time. So what do you think a teacher should do when the student says, I do not have any aim in life as of now? What would be the best means to tackle such a situation according to you?
One, of course, is where they go in for psychological tests,
Okay.
where their IQ, their aptitudes and attitudes, their skills, all these are tested. Because quite often they don't even know what they have.
Exactly.
Yeah. So once these tests are conducted, then the psychologist who conducts these tests can direct them and say, this is good, this is not so good.
Okay.
My own daughter, she wanted to be a doctor and I was happy with that. But then when the tests were conducted, which I always would encourage any parent to get done, the psychologist said, sorry Baba, this becoming a doctor is not the right thing for you because you may not even get the required percentage.
Okay.
So think of 3-4 other options,
Okay.
because the psychologist told her there were students who were so stuck on medicine, and when they did not get medicine, they were so dejected that they went and committed suicide.
Oh yes, yes.
So it was an open message to me too, that I should keep my options open.
Correct.
And then my daughter easily switched to counseling and psychology, where earlier she was focused on doctors.
Yes, so we have spoken about emotional factors, we've spoken about peer pressure, we've also spoken about following the ring reader during your seminar. Now, in today's world, we see that we are influenced more and more by what we watch on social media and even the media like TV, television, for example. They have reported suicides of celebrities. Don't you think all these tend to influence the youngsters, the youth of today? That, you know, if someone that they had personally idealized or someone that they would look up to, like a celebrity for instance, if they can do such things, they can, you know, get away with it, or other, if they can resort to even committing suicide. So don't you think the media also plays an important role nowadays?
It does. In fact, as I look at students today, they are filled with tattoos, and the male has earrings and nose rings and whatever else. And even their haircuts, their hairstyles are sometimes so weird. So it's basically a kind of echolalia and parallelism that they are following,
Okay.
based on their celebrities whom they have idealized.
Exactly. Correct.
Okay? So it is for us as parents and teachers to nip it in the bud.
Correct.
And if the child wants to do a certain haircut which is not suitable,
True.
then to tell, you should not encourage, you should not go in for this because it is not the done thing.
Okay.
And when it comes to suicide, sometimes even across the table, parents and children should sit at dinner time and discuss.
Spend quality time together.
Yes, because if all of us are sitting in front of the TV and we don't have any quality time,
Yes.
then the children have no way to express what they think, and the parents have no way to tell the children what they think.
Okay.
So I believe that prayer time, family prayer time, and quality time spent not in front of the TV, but
Okay.
at the dinner table where you have discussions, that is what will help our children.
Okay, so winding up, what is the advice that you would like to give the teachers in molding the students of the future generation, I would say? So what would be your advice to them?
My simple advice would be, example speaks louder than words.
Correct.
You be a positive role model for your students. As I said in that book, so by your behavior, by how obliging you are, how organized you are, how motivated and keen you are. So be a worthy example.
Okay.
Because it's one thing you you preach something and you practice differently. So practice what you preach,
Yes.
be a good example.
Anyway, thank you very much, Mr. D'Souza. Thank you for coming on.
My
It was
pleasure.
really a pleasure interacting with you and learning so much through your seminar. I hope all of us can take a leaf out of this and we can also implement and follow in day-to-day life what we should do. Thank you very much once again.
Welcome.
Thank you.